obviously can't tell if you can hear me. Excellent, thanks. I have no way of knowing because it's not audible in the room. Awesome. So, hi. Thank you so much for staying awake after lunch and joining me in my talk called Becoming Polyglot. Let's begin by talking about what this word even means. Now, it can be a noun and it can be an adjective. You can call somebody a polyglot, someone who knows a lot of languages. I know a bunch of you are listening to me speaking English, and that's not your native language. So already you're much closer to polyglot than I am, because I'm British and I speak as many other languages as you would expect. You can also use it as an adjective to describe something like a polyglot programmer. So that's polyglot. What am I doing here? Hello, I'm Lorna. I'm a developer advocate for IBM. I have been an expert in a single tech stack. I don't use the same tech stack all the time anymore. I'm not sure I'm still expert in that tech stack. Some things have drifted away. Since then, since taking on this role as a developer advocate, where I work with all kinds of different developer communities, I have had to learn to work with all of the different technologies that all of you can use, because I have to do support and tutorials in all the different languages that we use that are available on the IBM cloud, which is an awesome place to put your data and your code, but it works in a wide variety of languages. So I've been learning a lot over the last few years. When you learn a new tech stack for the first time, you're basically learning to code. And so learning all the concepts and learning the code and the quirks of that specific technology are sort of the same thing. There are lots of resources for learning to code as a beginner in all sorts of different languages. But what about when you're not a beginner? What about when you are established in your career? You're already a well-known developer in your chosen language and you want to learn another one. It is so difficult to go from being expert, confident, efficient in one language and be a complete newbie in another. That's a really hard transition. But I think it's essential. I think every new technology that you can even do a little bit with informs the work that you do in all areas of your career. I think it's really important that you understand how much context you bring to the thing you are newbie in, how much actually you already know from the work that you've done in other languages. Your second programming language is pretty hard, but the sixth is really not. So you learn to learn and you learn to transfer your skills. As you do that, you go through leveling up, starting at level 1 and increasing your skill set as you go. Level 1 is simply to make the code run, to be confidently able to say, that project is written in Python, I will be able to use it. Not create it, not maintain it, not contribute to it, just use it. You know how to set up this toolchain, take some code from GitHub and make it run. This is level 1. And it really is. There's some expertise needed here to make this work. When you want to learn a new programming language or another technology stack, you can go to GitHub. It has excellent search abilities. And look for a project in the technology stack that you would like to learn. Maybe you're interested. Maybe you found out it's well paid. You'd like to do that next. But you can find a project to practice on and contribute to. Choose the ones with the most stars, because they're active and will be well maintained and should also have a decent README. You also need to learn how to deal with this tool chain where you take a project from GitHub and try to run it, and it doesn't work first time. You need strategies for dealing with an upset application that you're not really familiar with. For this, we can borrow from this excellent article. And this is a quote from an article called How to Report Bugs Effectively. If you haven't read it, Please read it. Make your whole team read it. There's a few people nodding at me. Yeah, this is a really key piece of learning for all developers. And I've stolen a quote from it. Instead of being a mongoose, be an antelope. When an antelope is confronted with something unexpected or frightening, it freezes. It stays absolutely still and tries not to attract any attention, while it stops and thinks and works out the best thing to do. This is you. Something goes wrong, you're not feeling confident, you're using tools that aren't really your tools. Don't swear a lot and type all the commands that you know. Swear a lot, by all means. This is completely legit. Do as much swearing as you need to get through this experience. But don't type one command and then another command and then another command and just step back and think about, what do you know? What can you do? Which tools do you have that you could work towards? And then we'll start to level up. Level 2 is being able to edit that code that you just took and ran. If I'm running code from source, it's probably because there's a problem with the compiled version and I'm about to try and fix it. So being able to make a change and see that change in effect, that's really key. Do you need to clear some caches? Do you need to recompile your code? What kind of a language is this? Do you need to stop and restart the web server? Hopefully not, but those things exist. Thinking about how you can see your change and introduce other changes that will help you to learn how things are going. My top tip when I'm adding some debugging is to put smileys in my log messages. First of all, it's kind of friendly. It makes me smile when I see my log message. But it also helps me understand that this line of change is not something I intended to commit to the source control repository. It's really obvious. This is not a professional piece of code. This is a smiley. So we can smile along as I see it appearing in the output. And then when I'm adding my changes with Git, when I'm staging my changes, I will identify that this thing should not be in the repository as it is. It either needs to be more serious, or it should probably, I just added it to try and understand what was happening. Being able to translate the things that you already know. So my first language, probably still my native language as a programmer, is PHP. What's great about PHP is it's very widely known, so you can Google for insert the name of the language you actually want to do, and then whatever the PHP word is, the PHP function or whatever it's called in PHP. Because everybody will have written the comparison between PHP and whichever language this is, because PHP is fairly ubiquitous. Most of you have probably written it at some point, willingly or otherwise. So using those skills, thinking about, I do know how this works, how can I reuse it? You need to be confident as a not newbie. You bring a bunch of expertise to the table. If you've been a web developer, if you've worked with HTTP, it doesn't matter if you're actually doing this in a slightly different way this time, because actually syntax doesn't matter so much as concepts. You also need to be confident with the tools that you use, which work regardless of your back end. So for example, web development's a great example. You should be confident in all of the HTTP tools, doesn't have to be these ones, but the ones that you use. Because regardless of which technology stack you're using, we work a lot with HTTP. I've got curl on the list here, it's my favorite. If you prefer a different console-based HTTP client, then go for it. HTTP, I like HTTP console, which is an NPM install. If you are more on the GUI side, then for making web requests, you can try Postman, which is cross-platform, Pause, which is for Mac, Fiddler, I want to say is for Windows. Anyway, last time I gave a talk with this slide in it, lots of people tweeted HTTP clients at me, so please visit this URL with the blog post where I collected all those recommendations into one place. Very important lesson. When you read this article, and I'll tweet you a link later, when you read this article, you will also read the comments, because I collected some stuff from Twitter. Lots of people have added things. This is very important when you read technical blogs. Always read the comments. There is always good value stuff there. Other tools I want to mention, request bin. This is a place you send HTTP requests to. If you think your code is sending the wrong HTTP request, send it to request bin. That will let you inspect exactly what was sent. It's a hosted thing. Runscope sponsor it. Yay, Runscope. You can also run it locally. It's made of Python, and I'm going to say Redis. ngrok. Oh, ngrok. ngrok is a tool that you run on your development platform. Could be a virtual machine, could be your laptop, and it opens a secure tunnel to the outside world. So you get a unique URL that you can give people, which will go to their servers and then back over that tunnel, and hit your dev installation. So you can show people a prototype, ask someone to help you debug, use a test development version API with a remote mobile front end. Bunch of tools available. Get to know your tools. Wireshark copies the network traffic that comes over your network card, lets you inspect it. Even if it's HTTPS, if you have the certificates, you can still inspect it. So you can see what's coming past. It's really, really low level. Sometimes that's useful. I worked with some Internet of Things smart meters, which just didn't send valid HTTP at all. But following the TCP stream with Wireshark was enough to understand what was happening. The last tool listed here, Charles Proxy, it's a paid-for tool, but it allows you to proxy requests through your laptop. Again, I use it quite a lot for mobile testing. It has a bunch of other amazing features. Top 3, being able to save sessions, save and reload the sessions and replay the requests and inspect the responses. You can also attach those to tickets. So you want to report a bug, you can attach a whole request and response. Someone else can open it in their version. Being able to rewrite the requests as they come through, that's quite important. If you are using a test version and all the image URLs are hard-coded, you can just rewrite those as they come through. Wrong headers, just rewrite those as well. It works really well. And you can also put in throttling. Some of the browsers have this built in now as well, so you can simulate the experience that a user is having if they're on a really slow platform. The point is, get to know these tools, because these types of tools you bring with you whenever you do anything vaguely web-related, regardless of your tech stack. Level 3, make your code run somewhere that isn't your machine. Works on my machine is for beginners, and by level 3, you're not a beginner. So very, very early on, right, get some code, get it running, make some changes, start deploying it. Understand what you need to make this code work in more than one different environment. Know how to set the config. Know how to get it running in the cloud. Understand its dependencies. To make this work really well, you need to understand source control. For most of us today, that means Git. So you do need to understand Git. Git is not the friendliest tool in the world at the beginning. I can't express how I felt about it when I first started using it. But now I'm an expert. It just took a lot of swearing to get me there. You need to understand Git. You need to be confident working with multiple remotes if you need to fork and make a change. You need to be clear about how to squash your changes or interactively rebase what you've worked on before you share it with other people. You must know how to rebase your branch and to resolve conflicts if you need to. This is what team collaboration looks like. But crucially, you take it with you in everything that you do. Imagine learning a new language and then having to learn source control for the first time as well. This is a skill you can pick up any time, so do it. Level 4, you have my permission to copy and paste. This is really important. We must learn from other people. We must learn by example. I think when you're really unfamiliar with a technical stack or a new area, you don't even know the words. You don't know how to ask your question yet. So you type somewhere, I mean, like I say, I'm a PHP dev, so I write the PHP words and the language I want. That usually gets me close. But a lot of the time you'll do a search and reading the first page or two of results will tell you what the words are, and then you will do another search, and that will hopefully bring you closer for what you need. When you are taking code from other people's applications, from Stack Overflow answers, from blog posts, consider each of those resources as a historical source. You learned history in school. How reliable is this source? How old is it? Some languages change a lot over time, JavaScript. Some haven't changed a lot in the last, you could probably take a 4-year-old Python article and still be safe, because a lot of their breaking changes came earlier than that. How old is this? How reliable is it? Where is it? What influenced this? Do you trust it? Consider those sources and evaluate them before you copy and paste the code. Copy and paste it. Put it in. This is how we get things done. Your increasing experience as a software craftsperson lets you put things together quickly. But take the time to understand it. If you add it into your project, you are responsible for looking after it. That's very important. So try and make sure that you are understanding what's going on after you've copied and pasted, but before you commit it to the repository. Just have a good look around, look up any libraries or functions that you weren't familiar with. Make sure that you understand it. Level 5. I have a challenge for you. Level 5. Start a new application from the beginning. We don't do this very often now, really. At one time, companies bought a new website every 2 years. We were constantly starting a new project, shipping the new project, starting another new project. Now, we build applications. We build our applications to last, to serve businesses for longer, and to live for longer, to evolve. So we don't start very many new projects, something that we don't practice. I think it's really important. It's important for us to really understand the decisions that are made so early in the project. Why are your projects set up like this? Why is the directory structure this way? Why do we name things this way? What are the trade-offs? Does using this dependency manager make it easier to develop but harder to deploy? What decisions do we make here? Are we going with environment variables or something else? So challenge yourself. Follow a tutorial by all means, but then just throw it away. Create something of your own imagination. Even if it's the same application that you've built 100 times, that's cool because you know the domain. But build it in your new tech stack and build it completely from scratch. Walk yourself through setting up the database relationships and how this is all going to work, choosing a templating language. Level 6. This is when you come out from the darkened room and start to extend your horizons a little bit. At level 6, I want you to participate a bit more in the community. I want you to interact with other people, face-to-face, like now, or virtually, I don't mind. This is also the first level at which I think you need a mentor. Met a lot of beginners looking for mentors. And the reality is, as a beginner, your question is the same as every question asked by every beginner since the beginning of time. But now you're starting to build things of your own. You're beyond that well-charted path. The answers are not so easy to find. The answers might be, it depends. So this is the time when someone with more experience really can help you in a way that before, they're Googling it for you. You should be able to find answers for yourself when you are more of a beginner than this. So try to get to know where you can ask questions. Where are the communities? Do you trust a particular online community? Is there an IRC channel that you like? Is there an in-person user group? If there's not an in-person user group, would you like to run one? We all need this, and it needs people who show up and participate to make it happen. When you're learning something new, you should have a lot of questions. You should have many, many questions. When I started working in this job, they gave me a Mac. I am not a Mac user. 18 months later, I'm still not sure I'm a Mac user. I am not a Mac user. One of my friends is. And I had a lot of tech support. I also have some accessibility issues. I had a lot of tech support. And I said, I'm so sorry. I am asking you so many questions. This is really disruptive. And he just said to me, how else would we learn? How else will you learn? You need to ask those questions, but you need to find someone you can ask. You will find answers in many places. I think today, Stack Overflow is on the tip of everyone's tongue, and rightly so. When you use Stack Overflow, make sure the question is actually the question that you wanted the answer to. And when you read the answer, make sure you're choosing the answer with the most votes, not the answer that the original asker accepted. 2 reasons for this. The first one is, the person who asked the original question obviously doesn't know which is the right answer, or the question would not have been asked. So sometimes the wrong answer gets accepted just because that person genuinely didn't know. But sometimes the right answer changes over time. But Stack Overflow is the wisdom of the herd, the wisdom of the crowd. And so the answer with the most votes is probably the one that you want. It's probably the right one. When you find an answer on Stack Overflow, or if you ask somebody, what do you do with that information? If you have to put together 2 or 3 different things, do you try to make it easier for someone else to put together those 2 or 3 things? The technical ecosystems, Stack Overflow, blog posts, tutorials, documentation, they don't write themselves. They're written by people who had to find an answer and chose to write that down to make it easier for you. So level 6 is a time where you can start to pay that back. You can start your own blog. I can't recommend the blog thing strongly enough. LornaJane.net has nearly 1,000 posts on it. It's brilliant. It knows all kinds of things that I have no idea I have ever known. Other people find it and use it, and that's great. But for me, understanding something well enough to write it down and then being able to read it back later, brilliant. If you're not a blogger, then write a Stack Overflow question and answer it yourself. That's legit. And it means that the information that you have found is available to other people. It's up to you whether or not you want to do that. I hear a lot of excuses, particularly, oh, I don't write English well enough. My English is very good. I say bullshit to that. I want to see terrible English. If you can just make yourself understood, I want to read it. I don't care if you have a low opinion of your use of grammar. If you can make yourself understood, then do it. I have enough points on Stack Overflow that I can also improve your English if it's unclear. We can work on it together. But if you never write it down, I can never learn from it. So that is up to you, whether you participate or not, except in one very special case. If the maintainer of a project helps you with a problem, you will write that down somewhere. Those people are too precious for us to use their time asking the same questions over and over. So in general, I'm relaxed about it, but if a project maintainer has to take the time to answer your question, then you can take the time to write it down, because there are not enough of those community people around. Asking questions is an art. I took this quote from How to Ask Questions the Smart Way. It's an Eric Raymond, who also wrote the book The Cathedral and the Bazaar. In the world of hackers, the kind of answers you get depends as much on the way you ask the questions as in the difficulty of developing the answer. Please, you can read this, and again, I would strongly recommend that you do. Say what you're trying to do clearly. Say what you've already tried clearly. If I think you haven't even Googled for it yet, I'm unlikely to help. If you really have and you need help, then you need to spell that out when you ask the question. And try to make it as clear as you can what it is that you need. And in this way, wisdom will become yours. All right, let's keep moving. Level 7 is to get paid to use this tech stack. Last time I gave this talk, someone asked me, but what should I do if someone offers me a job, but I'm still really just learning? Like, I'm not sure if I'm ready? Take the job. You'll learn a lot. I have had more than one job that I definitely was not technically capable of when I got it, and it's just a race to see whether you can learn to do the job faster than they realize you shouldn't be doing the job, right? And I believe in you. So if this opportunity comes along a little bit too soon, that's okay. Say yes, it's brilliant, get the book, study hard, right? Draw on those communities that you've already found to ask questions on, and just try really hard to level up. You will be surprised how much you know, especially if you're thrown in the deep end like this. You get a new job for some necessary reason, or at work you get moved to a project where you really don't know the technology. You will be surprised how much you can do. If the job is working with Sinatra and RabbitMQ, and you have some experience of some queuing system, Beanstalk, SQS, Gearman, and some micro framework, Flask, Slim, Express, you will probably put those together because you already know the hard parts. You've already taken my advice and you know Git. You know how queues work. You know how micro frameworks work. You understand middleware. You understand HTTP. Just doing it in a different syntax is actually not too bad. And I think there are not that many resources aimed at us who are already expert. We need translation, not beginner instruction. We need, if it's called this in this language, what's it called in that language? The joy of doing a new technology and getting paid for it, particularly if you're working with an experienced team, is that you will learn the pieces that go around it. You will learn to write that language like a native of that language. I am pretty sure that if you read my JavaScript or my Golang or my Python, you could tell that I'm a PHP developer, because I'm still learning with those languages, and so I write a very PHP structure. I tried to look something up in Python the other day. How do we do this? And the answer is, we don't do that in Python. It's not Pythonic. Okay, and actually, when I think about it, that's a pretty sensible way of doing it. And actually, I might follow the same pattern in my PHP now I understand this. Learning one thing always feeds another. Take as many opportunities as you can to work with experienced developers of your chosen target tech stack. Contribute to open source projects, other people's open source projects, because their code reviews will give you very valuable feedback. And the same when you work with a team. The code reviews, seeing how other people write code, seeing what they think of yours, will help you to really pick up the best parts of the language that you're moving to. This idea of always improving is so important. It can seem such a tall mountain to climb at the beginning. Once you're employed to do this, you need to take on the whole ecosystem. Find out what good practice means for testing, for security, for deployment, for the way the repositories should be organized. Manage the technical change to get that implemented, but keep iterating on that. Keep improving your tools. Keep trying to look at how other people work. Is there something that would improve your efficiency? Can you reduce your cycle time, the time it takes to get something done, and then see that change? Things that you've learned in one language transfer really well. I think everybody uses Jenkins. Everybody uses Travis. The unit testing libraries look really similar in many different places. Once you understand how to write unit tests, you can think about when it's hard to write the unit tests and what you should do if the thing you're testing hits the database. Those thoughts will come with you. It's something you can more easily pick up and look for solutions on when you move into the next level. I feel the same way about the logging tools. Your elk stack, your new relic. The good practices in writing logs, they're the same everywhere, and the log levels are the same. They all have info and warn, error, emergency, right? That's widely recognized. And that's where being not a beginner is so valuable, because you almost don't realize what you know, but you have so much that you can bring with you. Level 9. This is the moment where you are going to take a pause and look behind you. Look over your shoulder at who is following you on this journey. You have learned so much. And from this position, you can make a really big difference. It's easy to feel the imposter syndrome. It's easy to feel, even within our small teams at work or perhaps our local user groups, never mind the global stage, it's very easy to feel like, oh, I don't know very much. There will be other people who know more. Someone else should do it. That's not true. Offering to help someone with a technical problem or offering to become a mentor to somebody is incredibly, incredibly valuable. I don't mean it's incredibly valuable to the community. You should all be adorable humans and you should give back to open source. I mean, yeah, that's cool, but it's also to your advantage. You will learn a lot. This is just for you. To understand something well enough to explain it to somebody else pushes your skills further. As a mentor, you will need to understand somebody else's problem and offer support, but you will also need to fill gaps, things that haven't come up for you yet. You will then need to help someone else with. The mentorship thing works both ways. I've had a mentor for a long time. I would say she's been trying to disown me for the majority of that time. Technically, she's my PHP mentor. Yeah, I probably know more PHP than she does. But she has a lot to offer me in terms of her different technical experience, her different life experience, the way that I might approach something at work, particularly when I first started working for a big company. Right? Hold on to those people. Don't let them disown you. And also, when you become a mentor, whether that's a formal arrangement, an informal arrangement, what happened to me, someone posted online that I was their mentor. You could ask me first, but yeah. Be prepared for that to be something which happens for a while, doesn't happen for a while, then happens a bit more when they have more questions. As a mentor, you can't push a person through their learning. You can only offer as a resource to help them along the way. And it's up to the mentee, the person to whom you are mentoring, to do the driving, to do the pushing, to decide what's next. If you're going to write a book on your chosen tech stack, you can start writing that now. You don't need to know the most in the world to write a book. Trust me, I've written many. You just need to have something that you want to tell others. There just has to be somebody a little bit behind you on the path, and then you can offer something of value. Level 10. Dream in this language. Don't Google for the name of the thing from the other language. just express yourself in your chosen language. Level 10, I don't think all of us need to reach this level in every technology stack we adopt. Some of the best developers I know are probably maybe 1 or 2 10s and a bunch of 8s and 9s. But it's having the breadth that really allows you to take an idea or a technique from one place and apply it to another, to learn something in one language that isn't widely done in another, but yet where it can be of great benefit. At level 10, I hope that you'll feel you have some responsibilities. I hope that you will be answering questions in forums, perhaps watching the Stack Overflow tags. I hope that you'll be contributing to the documentation of open source tools, perhaps writing blog posts and tutorials of your own. How did you learn? Open source isn't made by other people. It's made by all of us. We contribute to the code itself, to the libraries, but also to the ecosystem, to the welcoming communities, to the good documentation, to the feeling of welcome and inclusion. That's really important. So as you level up through the various technologies that you choose, take a moment to look and see how far you've come. It isn't easy to learn, to get to level 10 or even level 9 in any language. And to have been expert and to have started again and climbed that mountain again, don't forget to recognize the work that you've done. Don't forget to recognize your own achievements. And then you can decide which thing you'd like to learn next. Thanks for your time.